Okay, so for the high pressure fuel pump, now here's the deal, guys. This wasn't for the faint of heart, and I would not recommend this for someone that is not heavily mechanically inclined, because a substantial amount of parts have to come off this car in order to properly do this. You can half-ass this and shortcut this and, you know, kind of cut some corners, but then you're gonna start tearing shit up and breaking it. So here are my FX 350 high pressure fuel pumps. Here's the deal with this. There's gonna be quite a bit of parts that do have to come off. There is a line on the stock high pressure fuel pump that comes off that is not gonna be reused, which is this line right here. So this is aftermarket. This is actually a new line that can, you know, hold ethanol, and that we had to reroute this line. Now, part of the spool kit is they give you a whole new line, which is relatively the same as your old, which is the second line right here that goes down there, and it goes to your fuel rail, which I apologize if you guys can't see that, but it's, you know, kind of right there where that connector goes into. The whole fuel rail is this black thing right here. This is your fuel rail, right? And it is no bueno to take out. It is not fun. The issue is that the fuel injectors are so long that all of this must come out. Now, is it possible you can take out the fuel injectors with the fuel rail and not have to worry about this? Sure, you could. But I chose to take off this stuff so that I can pull out the fuel rail and injectors and keep them intact. I didn't want to separate them. So I chose to keep the fuel injectors and the fuel rail intact and not separate them. Now, part of the spool directions is you must drill the fuel rail, which is, you know, scary to some people. However, right here, and I'll show you on the other side, the fuel rails must be drilled with a 2mm drill, a drill head. Yeah, kind of dicey a little bit, because obviously you need compressed air once you drill your fuel rail to drill out any kind of metal debris. If you do not do that, you're gonna get shit in your motor, and then you're gonna have a big problem. Same thing for this side, but this side is way more accessible. Here's your fuel rail right here, again. So fuel rail is right here. And the fuel rail itself, the end of it, which I'll point to it, is right there where my tip of my finger is pointing at. This disconnects right here. The end of the fuel rail is there, and you're gonna have to drill a little hole to open up the passageway of the fuel rail to allow your flow to operate appropriately. Now, here is again, the other side of the FX 350. This is a line that is supplied with the kit. However, it is relatively same as stock. It goes the same direction as stock does. It literally goes down and it goes back, and it goes to the rail, literally down back to the rail. And this is the aftermarket line to essentially hold the ethanol, yada, yada. This is basically the route we went with. Don't judge me, because obviously a lot of this shit's gonna be hidden. So, but this is just the route we're going with for right now. This is essentially the way we set up the lines and the ethanol sensor. This is gonna be big for you guys. I did verify this with Spool Performance to be accurate. So here's the deal, guys. It comes off the high pressure fuel pump, goes straight, goes into this T right here, right? that little 45-degree angle T comes up, literally tees off right there. Sorry guys, tees off right there. One line goes up into the filter, and then to the filter goes back through here. The line literally goes right there. That's your line. So this is a quick release line that comes off of the filter straight to right here, right? So that's the proper way to wire that, guys, or to run your fuel line, right? So from here, again, this is kind of tacky. It looks like shit right now. However, this is all just to kind of show you the correct way to run this stuff, you know? The line continues from the T, and boom, ethanol sensor. Again, running back, going up to your high pressure fuel pump. Now, when it comes to wiring the ethanol sensor, yeah, no fun, but no biggie. You can see the wire right there. We chose the passenger side. Again, that's the same area where I have the grommet that I pushed through it. We grounded the ethanol sensor to the body of the car right there. The positive wire, as you can see, that little red wire, runs back to the battery, which the fuse we used this is a long ass little segment, but bear with me guys, I appreciate it. All right, we have it running safer. You know, we want to make sure that we're not burning anything down or setting the fucking car on fire. So this is an ignition accessory fuse right here. So whenever the car is on, this will operate accordingly and appropriately. I wanted to do that obviously because I'm not trying to drain my battery, and quite simply I just would rather a safer setup than to splice into a wire or do anything like that, right? So I'd rather run a long ass wire all the way to the, you know, fuse box than to splice into a wire. So that's how I ran mine. You know, however you want to set your setup is completely up to you. But I'd rather err on the side of caution. But that's the high pressure fuel pump setup. I might be skipping quite a few things, guys. But again, I kind of ran into a bunch of challenges when taking off the high pressure fuel pumps. You know, there's quite a bit of stuff that needed to be taken off, you know. By the way, if you don't know, here's your coil packs. Right here, same for the other side. You want to be very careful pulling these out because they come out 2 at a time. And if you haven't changed your plugs in a while, there's a chance that the rubber piece is going to be seized to the actual plug itself. And the last thing you want to do is tear the rubber off. So take your time and be careful pulling those out. That's the last thing you want.